I am Anna Romberg.
And I am Niina Ratsula.
And this is Ethics Talk, powered by the Nordic Business Ethics Network. The Nordic Business Ethics Survey. Niina, what is that? Where did it start? I think it's something that's close to the heart of us both. But could you elaborate a bit more about the origin of the survey and what it is?
Yeah, I think actually it's now about 1 year ago since we got this brilliant idea that we actually have to increase the discussion around the business ethics and actually find something that could be useful as a common ground for the compliance officers and anyone who's considering the ethical aspects of corporate culture and integrity. So I think it's actually quite nice to reflect now 1 year after that, what have we accomplished. So I think the survey originated from the idea that actually we don't have that much of data available that we could use, for example, when we want to demonstrate to the boards and senior management about the importance of ethics and what kind of issues we have and where does the Nordic companies actually currently stand at. So I think that kind of, if that was our original objective to increase the discussion and bring interesting data, so I think that through this survey we accomplished that target quite well.
Yeah, and didn't we have this idea of Nordic blue-eyedness, that we are blue-eyed, both you and me are blue-eyed, so we can fairly say that without being judgmental, but that we are blue-eyed in a sense that we don't have visible corruption in our public sector, right? When you get a new passport, your driver's license, or your kid go to school or the university, you don't have to bribe anybody to get that, right? We get access to healthcare and all of this. You don't bribe the police when you are speeding and so on. So we perceive that we are ethical and we have an ethical environment. And you and me, we've been working with companies. That's our background, coming out from the business, and we see that that's not necessarily always how it is. There is a lot of gray areas. There ethics in business is not necessarily a self-evident thing. So I think that was one thing that we maybe wanted to refute a bit and say maybe we are a bit blue-eyed, maybe we are not as ethical as we perceive. And the survey in itself, I think, one thing it proved was that we do perceive ethics to be super important. Was it like over 90% of the respondents, 1,500 respondents from Sweden, Norway, and Finland, 500 from each respective country, over 90% was that this is super important, and more or less everybody said that ethics at the workplace is something that they value more than salary or promotion or something. So one thing the survey said was it's important. But what else? We didn't stop there.
Yeah, exactly. So where is the but? So we think it's important, but then if we look at the results, so over 80% yet perceives different kind of ethical dilemmas and observations at the work. And for example, if we look at the average Nordic data, so the kind of unethical situations that people have at the workplace witnessed, with over 50% of the respondents, those scenarios include, for example, disrespectful behavior, passive leadership, or leadership that contradicts with the corporate values, favoritism, nepotism, distorting facts, and discrimination and bullying. So these are all of the things that actually we witness at the workplace with over more than 50% of the respondents. So in that sense, I think that gives quite good and kind of an overview of what kind of ethical issues we are facing at the Nordics.
Yeah, and the question was actually phrased during the last 12 months.
Exactly.
So I think that's important, because obviously during a long career and historically maybe you have experienced something like you think discrimination and harassment was something that was more prevalent like back then, but now we're talking about the last 12 months. So yeah. So I guess we value ethics highly, and then the survey also revealed that that doesn't mean that we behave ethically, right?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting combination in a sense.
Yeah.
So what else?
Yeah. Well, I think that the key result of our study, or if I would need to highlight one thing, that would be that, okay, what happens once over 80% of the respondents observe these unethical issues? So what do they do? And I think that's somewhere where we actually could have some improvements. So over 50% of the respondents, they actually didn't do anything.
So you mean nothing? Yeah. Like not even talk to their colleague, or they just kept it for themselves? They just witnessed it and just like...
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And the reasons why you didn't speak up, they were a bit different in different Nordic countries. So in the top reason in Finland was that this is not my business, why would I report this? Then in Sweden it was that I was concerned that, in Sweden it was that I was concerned that speaking up would actually not make any difference.
Yeah.
And then in Norway, the most obvious reason was that the person was concerned that speaking up could jeopardize one's job. Yeah,
and then thinking of well, the Finnish stereotype is maybe a silent person who doesn't, it's like, okay, it's none of my business, somebody else will tackle it. Resonates pretty well with that. But like with Sweden, actually, the Swedes actually know they should be doing something, right? Yeah. But they don't think it would make a difference and become a bit passive. So there is more ownership, right? That you actually think I should do something, but maybe they've tried it before and they see that it, didn't make a difference. And in Norway, I think it's quite interesting because I think the job market is pretty strong in Norway, but still employees are afraid to speak up because they don't want to lose their jobs. So that's, fundamental serious reasons. By the way, when you said that over 50% didn't do anything, they see something but don't do anything, we did see some differences, right, between like if you're a line manager or if you are like an employee. So how many of the line managers did not do anything?
Yeah, it was actually 28% who were line managers, and quite interesting result.
Yeah.
Because and if we think about the example you set in the organization, that something happens, you as a manager don't do anything, so how can you assume that the people then reporting to you would do otherwise?
Yeah, and I think we're going to come to reporting channels maybe a bit later, but it's in more or less every code of conduct that I've seen, the first option is if you see something unethical, if you see a violation of the company code of ethics and conduct, go to and talk to your line manager. Yeah. So that's the first option we really are giving to the employees. And then if we have almost a third of line managers that don't do anything, it's a concern, right?
It is, yeah. And I think if we look at the potential reasons that why people didn't speak up, I think it's also quite clear from the results that actually it's not that much about that people don't know who to contact or don't know kind of if it's relevant or not, but it's really much related to this cultural aspect that, if a person feels that it's not my job to do this, or nothing will ever happen if I report, or that something bad will happen to me. So these are the things that where the only way to change these perceptions is the leadership.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of work to do around there. I think, another topic I would actually raise from this survey was the response when we asked that, have people been put into a situation where they would have to compromise the ethical standards of their organization?
Yeah, that was a good question.
Yeah, and Finland wasn't really doing quite well in this this response?
Yeah, and this is what we have been discussing the results. I think again without being prejudiced per se, but having worked in a Nordic context for many years, I think it's quite known that you give an order to a Finnish employee. You say this is how you should do it. Somebody has decided, just do it. Finnish employees usually just go and do it, and maybe in Sweden it's more that you are actually. There is even a word for it where you can överpröva, like you can sort of second guess or test the decision, and it's more questioning, right? And which actually, when it comes to business ethics, it's you need to have the discussions, right? You have to feel comfortable of actually questioning, in a sense, or at least have the discussions and bring it up. And I think that was it. How in Finland it was like close to, was it 20%?
Yeah, 20% of the respondents said that yes, I have actually acted against the ethical values of my organization.
Because I felt pressured to it during the last 12 months again.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then in Sweden, Norway, it was like 10 and below.
Yes, yeah.
Like
so in Finland, the figure was 3 times more than in Norway, for example.
Yeah.
And really the most obvious reason was that, I was following the instructions from my manager.
So coming to leadership again, right?
Yeah.
It's And when you in the beginning you were saying that the most common issues that are seen is it's bad management, disrespectful behavior, manipulating facts and stuff like that. Actually, I was in a management team, executive management team of a really big Nordic company, and was impressed by the discussion there, because we went through the results and we had a really intelligent discussion around how business ethics, how challenging it can be, and what kind of support the top gives to the bottom. And there, a reflection of the CEO was that when he looked at the list of the misbehaviors, the unethical conduct, he said, but these are, the top 5 are leadership issues.
Exactly.
It's something that comes from us, and something that we can actually influence, which for me was like, yeah, they got it. It's a lot about leadership and actually walking the talk and so on.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the aspects where the organization who have actually done the in-house survey, it's been very interesting to see that, okay, these are the Nordic average issues, and this is our company, so it's quite easy to see that, okay, where really your challenges are, and actually what are your strengths as well.
Yeah, and that's something obviously we will do more as well, to do the company specific, like tailored surveys for companies, and utilize this data that we have, because there is a lot of data available, and in this report it's available also on our webpage. And there is just a high level overall findings that we are presenting, but the data is so rich that there is a lot of analysis to be done on it, and so I guess that's something that we will continue and also use in in-house surveys and so on.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think the survey results have been very eye-opening in many perspectives, and especially I've been doing a lot of these line manager trainings where I actually show that these are the kind of perceptions that employees all around the Nordics have about their workplace, and many times it's like quite shocking to hear, oh really, that do we have that much of these situations where people perceive that this is bad leadership or discrimination or such. And I think that is a very good way of also training the managers to actually realize that their intention is not always how it's perceived by the people within the organizations, and sometimes you just really need a mirror to understand that actually how am I leading, and how is my behavior being reflected by the organization, and no one's going to have ever a kind of a flat statistics that you wouldn't have any issues, but understanding and kind of being bold enough to kind of find out what kind of issues you have. I think that's bold, and I encourage everyone to do that.
And in the survey, actually, one thing that we saw was also, what you're referring to, this different perception, like where top management or managers are thinking that, for example, we have a culture where everybody feels comfortable of raising concerns, so that's rated very high, like yes, that's what we think. And then when you go to employees, they have a totally different view, and we saw that on many parameters where top management have like a rosier view of the reality, and of course it's perceptions, right? And to some extent it's you are expecting it, right? But as you say, it's setting the culture. If employees feel that top management have different rules, they play a different game. It's setting a culture where you feel, okay, rules are not for obeying. I can also sort of deviate a bit because top management have their own rules. So,
exactly.
So I think that's where perception is key, to have the transparency, understand, how is the employees perceiving things and what kind of culture is that fostering.
That's exactly, and I think that if we look at the results, we can see quite a lot of reflections to the core culture that you mentioned, and sometimes it's quite interesting to understand, for example, that if we look, for example, you mentioned this playing by the same rules, so only 38% of the non-specialist employees feel that this is the truth in the organization, where 79% of the top management thinks that this is the name of the game. So there is a huge difference on how do you perceive that, what does it mean to play with the same rules? What does it mean to be confident to report a concern? And again, here we had less than 60% of the employees who felt that actually I am confident to speak about the ethical concerns, where it was clearly over 70% of the leaders who felt that this is the truth.
So we've been talking a lot about the results from this year's survey, the 2019 survey, but we're actually planning to I mean, this will be an annual survey. That's what we've committed to, and as you said in the beginning, one main objective of the survey is actually to promote the discussion, to ensure that everybody who's working with ethics and compliance or part of the Nordic Business Ethics Network, that we have data, that we have facts, that we actually can sort of prove and have more fact-based discussions. So the 2020 survey, tell some sneak peeks from that.
I think we definitely need to keep some of the old questions to be able to see the differences, but there has been some queries on the kind of data that actually companies are looking for, and of course we want to serve the companies to provide information that is interesting, and also to ask questions from the Nordic level that would actually fit then the corporate specific needs as well. And actually one difficult yet important question has been that, okay, there is a lot of discussion about this gap between the managers and non-manager perception, but for example, if we look at these unethical behaviors, which percentage of that is actually conducted by the manager? And this we didn't ask in this year's questions, but I think this is one of the things we need to elaborate on the 2020 survey.
And also one thing that I have heard is that we want to understand, people want to understand if there are certain types of misconduct where we more easily intervene, because now the general assumption is, and it's been in the headlines, the media has been writing about that okay, the Nordic survey, Business Ethics Survey shows that people don't intervene, we do not speak up. It is not sort of the natural thing to do. But then to understand, okay, but are there certain things, if we see some particular type of misconduct, can we see that actually in certain categories we do speak up to get that out from the data? And so we're planning to do the survey early 2020 and have release events in all Nordic countries. And the big news for this round is that we will have Denmark with us. So we will take in Danish data and have an event in Copenhagen as well. So that will be great. And what else? Then actually we're also we're going to use the data also from the 2019 survey, the unused data to do some academic research on. So a lot of things are done around the survey.
Yes, definitely. And I think that the report we've launched so far has only covered the very high level highlights of it. So I think that it's very important to because we have this amazing data to also understand some of the details behind that.
Yeah, and if anybody who's watching this want to know more about the survey, want to get the report from 2019, where should they go?
ethics@work.net, right?
Okay. And then there is the network as well. You can.
Yes, that's linked directly to the NordicBusinessEthics.com, and you can have the report there. You can order your own survey, and you'll find plenty of other nice to know information from there as well.
Great. So at least I'm super excited about the 2020 survey.
Me too. So looking forward to that one.
Yes. Great. Thanks.
Thanks, Anna.